If you enjoy my videos, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps my channel grow and I will make more good videos for you. The voice didn't start as a sound. It started as a whisper in the vacuum of space, a vibration only the stars seemed to recognize. On the edge of the Sagittarius Rift, aboard the derelict relay station MIRE-17, a man named Kale was the only one left listening. The rest of the crew had vanished 3 days ago. No signs of struggle, no life readings, just scattered tools, open hatches, and walls that echoed with a silence too heavy to be normal. Kale had sealed himself inside Bay 2, clutching an old analog headset like it was a lifeline. The transmission had started at 3:17 Universal Time, a patternless stream of tonal pulses, followed by something impossible, his own voice, calling his name from light years away. He hadn't told command. Not because he was afraid they wouldn't believe him, but because he was afraid they would. The relay station had been placed near a strange gravitational anomaly, a region long believed to be empty, yet filled with dark energy distortions no one had successfully mapped. It was supposed to be a quiet post, a punishment assignment really, after Kale's court-martial was overturned. He'd been a golden voice once, a signal linguist for first contact protocols, trained to decode patterns from any species. But his last mission had ended in tragedy, an entire diplomatic vessel lost after he'd misinterpreted what he swore were words, not weapons. They blamed his voice for opening a channel that led to annihilation. Now that same voice was being called back. By what? He couldn't say. 3 days ago, the engineers vanished while investigating interference near the core reactor. 2 days ago, the station's AI, Mira, went silent. Yesterday, he heard himself. Today, he began answering. "I'm here," he said softly into the headset. Not sure why his words felt like keys fitting into unseen locks. "Kale Varian, I hear you." There was a pause, then static curled like a whisper. "Kale ... You are? Not alone anymore." He stood frozen. The voice was his, but older, raw with emotion and filled with something deeper, regret or warning. An emergency beacon triggered near the old observation deck. That part of the station had been sealed for years after radiation leaks made it unsafe. The log said no one should be there. Yet the beacon flashed an access request from Kale Varian. Time stamped 47 seconds into the future. He sprinted through dimly lit corridors, past flickering lights and silence so thick it hummed. When he reached the deck, the door creaked open, without resistance. Inside, it was as if time had folded inward. A console flickered with alien glyphs he recognized from his last mission, the ones that were never supposed to be seen again. On the floor lay a tattered recording device. His initials were engraved into its frame. He picked it up, heart pounding. The device clicked on by itself. "If you're hearing this," the voice said, "then you followed the signal." "I did too, and I failed. Don't trust the stars. They remember everything. They remember you." Kale stumbled back. The console flared to life, and a countdown appeared: 0 hours, 9 minutes, and 59 seconds. Something was about to activate. He tried to shut it down. It resisted. "Authorization override," he commanded. "Varian Alpha 6? Nothing. The lights dimmed as the countdown ticked. He slammed his fist against the console, his mind spiraling back to that mission, to the glowing alien spire, to the final words broadcast before the ship was vaporized. The voice awakens the void. He remembered something else now, a figure in the communications chamber, standing at the edge of known space, staring into the stars. Not alien. Not human. A shape formed from memory and light, speaking with his voice. He never told anyone what it said. A whisper now echoed across the deck. "It's not a signal. It's a choice." He turned and saw himself standing by the window, same face. Same eyes. But something inside the reflection shimmered wrong. "What are you?" Kale whispered. "I'm what you left behind," the figure said. "And I'm here to finish what you started." The station groaned. The countdown hit 0. The stars outside shifted. No moved. He felt it, not gravity, but attention. The kind that made your lungs tighten. The kind that knew your name before. You were born. The reflection stepped forward, the same voice, but deeper now, touched by something ancient. You called them, Kale. Now they're coming. And then the stars blinked, one by one. Not vanishing, but turning toward him and smiling. Kale didn't remember falling, only the sound like glass breaking inside his skull as the stars turned. One by one, the lights outside the observation deck pulsed, as if blinking in sequence, responding to his presence. The figure his mirror, his voice-given shape stood motionless, watching him with eyes that shimmered like liquid black. The countdown had finished, but something had begun. The station groaned deeper now from its bones. Something ancient had woken beneath. He crawled to the console. It no longer displayed time, only symbols, glyphs. Some he recognized echoes from the ruined diplomacy mission, but others twisted the moment he tried to focus. As if they changed to avoid comprehension, he grabbed the headset again. Myra. Activate emergency evac protocols. Static. Then a slow voice familiar yet wrong. Myra is listening, but she is not here. He froze. Who is this? A whisper, his own voice again, from a place far beyond the receiver. You. The console erupted in light. Lines of energy carved across the floor, spinning in radial patterns that traced the length of the deck. They pulsed in rhythm with Kale's breathing. His veins felt heavy, his thoughts warping as memories not his own bled into his mind. He was no longer in the station. He stood on the bridge of the lost diplomacy ship, the Endeavor. The crew was alive, arguing, preparing the contact signal. Kale remembered this day. He remembered feeling the shift in the signal, that gut-deep certainty that the alien tones weren't random, they were listening, waiting for something. His voice had been the one to answer, and it had worked. For 3 seconds. The void answered back, a perfect harmonic echo, then everything had turned to fire. But now, in this vision, it was different. The signal never fired. Kale turned, his past self standing still, headset raised, but this time the voice didn't come from him. It came from something behind him. A presence stood beyond the viewport, vast and indistinct, like the shape of a god drowned in starlight. It pressed against the hull without touching it, speaking directly into Kale's mind. You gave us your voice. But it wasn't yours to give. The vision collapsed. He was back on Meyer 17, gasping, sweating, hands trembling. The stations? Gravity surged and faltered, alarms screamed, power flickered. Lights danced in unreadable patterns along the walls. Kale staggered through the corridor toward the main com tower. He had to warn someone, anyone. Halfway there, he found a smear of blood across the bulkhead fresh. At the end of the hall, the airlock hissed open. No one should have been able to use it. No one was left. A woman stood there, wrapped in a scorched flight suit. Her face was sunburned, her eyes rimmed in starlight. Kale gasped, Captain Rios? He whispered. She had died on the Endeavor. She looked at him and smiled. I told them not to answer. You did anyway. He backed away, heart thudding. How? Are you alive? I'm not, she said, stepping forward. But you are, and they still want your voice. Who are they? He asked. She paused, then said slowly, They don't have a name. They are memory. They are the silence that listens. They need one thing to reach through. Her fingers tapped her throat. A voice? The corridor lights pulsed red. A klaxon began to echo, a foreign sound, not from human design. Kale, Rio said, you're the key because you survived the breach. Your voice reached both sides. But you don't remember what you said. He looked past her. Something moved in the airlock behind her, black mist, curling upward, taking form. His throat clenched. What did I say? Her eyes widened in fear. You? Said come home. The hallway behind them twisted. Gravity reversed. Kale slammed against the ceiling. Rios vanished in a blink of light. The walls folded inward, showing stars through seams that should have led to steel. And in the stars 1,000. Lights blinked. Calling his name. Kale? His voice echoed back, not once, but hundreds of times. Each one slightly different, each one older. Each one desperate. Then a child's voice, his voice cried out softly, Don't let them in. He turned toward the sound and saw it, a child. Version of himself, huddled in the shadows, hands over his ears. Too late, the boy whispered. You already did. The lights went out. Cale awoke on the floor of the main tower, drenched in sweat, ears ringing with echoes that didn't belong in this universe. The emergency lights blinked in rhythmic pulses like a heartbeat. His own or something else's, he touched his face blood. A gash across his forehead. His hands trembled as he pushed himself up. The last thing he remembered was his child self whispering those words, "Too late, you already did." The tower's viewport showed the stars again, but they were wrong. The constellations had shifted, impossibly. Either the station had moved, or the stars had. In the distance, something loomed in the black. A structure? A ship? A wound? The console flickered to life. No input, just a screen glowing white. Then black text began to type itself across it. "We heard you." "We are coming through." He backed away. The floor vibrated beneath him. Cale sprinted toward the escape pod bay, but when the doors hissed open, there were no pods. Just a single chair. A chair with restraints. Waiting for him, the air hummed. He heard music faint, distant, impossible. A lullaby from his childhood. His mother's voice, long dead, drifting through the system like a ghost. His knees buckled. He fell to the floor, covering his ears. It didn't stop. Then the voice changed. It was his again, older, terrified. "Don't let them use your voice. If they finish, the message reality folds." Cale crawled away, pulling himself back to the elevator shaft. He couldn't trust anything. Not even himself, inside the shaft. Walls were flickering with rapid symbols, alien glyphs interspersed with human letters. One word kept appearing between the lines: remember. He dropped to the maintenance tunnel below, bruising his shoulder. Darkness consumed the space, save for a dim pulse ahead. He followed it, heart thudding with each step. The air felt thick. Wrong. Every breath tasted like static. The tunnel opened into the old signal archive, a place sealed since the Endeavor was lost. Dust-covered panels lined the walls, each one marked with recordings of first contact attempts. Cale didn't know what drew him there, but something inside did. One panel buzzed, active. He brushed dust away and stared. File name: Protocol Phoenix _17 timestamp. After loss of END-AVOR, he hesitated, then played it. Static filled the room, then silence, then Cale Varian. "If this reaches you, you've opened the doorway again." It was his voice. "I don't have long." The voice they hear at fractures time. "Every time you speak, they learn more. Don't speak again. Bury the signal. Destroy the relay. It's not too late to stop the loop." A low tone began under the message, building pressure behind his eyes. "You won't remember sending this. You never do. Because they won't let you." Cale screamed and ripped the panel from the wall. Behind it, something impossible. A living eye embedded in the steel, looking directly at him. It blinked. He staggered back, breath ragged, blood trickling from his nose. Something was inside the station, not physically. Not entirely. It was using him. He stumbled to the override terminal and began typing, "Delete Protocol Phoenix _17 Bonfirm." He hesitated. Another message appeared without input. "You speak? We learn." "Speak again." He slammed the console with his fist. Then a memory hit him like a bolt of lightning, an image of a desert planet, a monolith buried in sand. He had been there. A mission never logged, no crew, just him. Standing in front of the black stone, compelled to say one phrase, he couldn't remember what it was. Until now, he whispered it aloud. And the station screamed. Every wall shuddered. Lights burst. Panels ripped themselves open. The glyphs scattered across surfaces like fire. The station was becoming something else, reshaping itself, or being rewritten. From deep in the core, a voice called out his, again, but now layered with others. "Female, child, alien, we are almost through." He raced toward the power chamber. There was only one way to stop it now: overload the core, end the transmission. And everything. He reached the chamber and found it wide open, no guards. No radiation protocols. Just a black spire rising from The center like it had always been part of the station. It hadn't been there yesterday. It was humming. He stepped closer. His reflection shimmered in the surface, not one, but thousands. Versions of himself, dying, burning, screaming, begging. He reached for the control rod. A hand grabbed his own hand. Another Kale, burned, broken, wild-eyed and real. Don't, the other Kale begged. You'll finish the message. That's what it wants. You think you're stopping it, but you're the last word. Kale froze. Then what do I do? The other Kale looked at him and tears filled his eyes. You remember. And vanished. The chamber dimmed. The spire cracked open, and inside something began to crawl out. Kale stumbled backward, eyes locked on the black spire as it split like a blooming flower. Inside was not flesh, nor machine, but memory. Raw, living memory made manifest, writhing and whispering. Faces emerged from the folds. His mother, Captain Rios, even the engineer who vanished days ago, all flickering, incomplete, repeating one phrase over and over in a dozen layered voices. You said it, you said it, you said it. The chamber grew cold, impossibly cold. Ice crystals formed in the air as gravity shifted again, folding space sideways. Kale's breath froze in his throat. He turned to flee, but the corridor was gone, replaced by something else. Stars, endless and wrong. He stood now on a black surface floating in space, with constellations swirling overhead like a storm of gods. Above him, a massive spiral formed. In the sky, rotating in silence. At its center an eye, open, watching, his voice called up from the black. You brought us here, Kale turned. A circle of himself surrounded him, young, old, dead, dying, some in military uniforms, others burned, some crying, some silent. Each of them repeated the same sentence, a chorus of despair. We didn't remember until too late. He screamed, falling to his knees. What is this place? A voice behind him, gentle, female, loving. Home, he spun. His mother stood there. The one who died when he was 13, before he ever joined the corps, before he ever dreamed of speaking to the stars. This isn't real, he whispered. She knelt, cupped his face. It is as real as memory, as real as a voice echoing through the dark. They needed a bridge, Kale. You built it, you sang to them. He tried to pull away. I didn't mean to. I didn't know. You did, she said softly. You've done this before. Many times. That's why they keep you, why they keep sending you back. I'm not, he blinked, sending me back? Suddenly he saw flashes, different realities, different stations, different lives. In one he was a scientist. In another, a janitor. In one, a boy who never left Earth. All of them ended the same way. The signal. The voice, the arrival. He clutched his head, sobbing. Why me? Why always me? His mother's voice faded. The other Kales began to melt away, one by one, into dust as the eye in the sky grew closer. It wasn't just watching, it was reaching. From its pupil, a beam of light tore across the dark, striking him in the chest. It didn't burn. It didn't hurt. It remembered. Everything. He stood now inside a control room on the diplomacy ship Endeavor, as it had been seconds before destruction. The ambassador was there. The alien envoy, glowing, multi-limbed, made of mist and tone, stood across from him. The crew held their breath. Do it, the ambassador said. Send the voice. And Kale spoke, not in English, not in human language, but in something that came from deep within his bones. The alien's body shimmered, then split, then screamed. The ship exploded. The vision shifted again. He saw what came next. Debris, void, but the voice, the one he used, echoed far. Too far, and something ancient heard it, something outside time. That was the true contact. Not the aliens. Them. Kale fell to his knees, convulsing. The realization clawed into him like fire. He didn't cause the first breach. He was the breach. His voice was a wound through dimensions. You're almost ready. A voice said behind him. He turned. It was himself again, only this version glowed with starlight, calm, serene. They'll keep sending you back until you get it right. I don't know how, Kale whispered. You do, the glowing Kale said. You just don't want to remember what you have to lose to stop it. Kale looked up. The eye was close now, massive, encompassing the sky. His head throbbed. A word pounded inside him. Silence. If he could silence the voice. If he could close the loop. He could end it. But to do that, he had to die here. Truly die. No returns. No resets. He reached into his chest and felt it. A hum. A signal core embedded in his soul. They had put it there. Long ago, a living frequency generator. He'd been singing without knowing. The glowing Kale nodded. Pull it out, silence the stars. Kale hesitated, then grabbed hold and tore. The pain was not physical. It was memory unraveling. Every version of himself screamed, collapsing into ash. Time twisted. Space screamed. The eye cracked. He stood alone in nothingness. No stars. No sky, and then a spark, a voice, small, curious. Hello? He spun. A child stood before him, wide-eyed, pale, glowing faintly. Kale's breath caught. You're the first version, he whispered. The boy looked confused. What happened? Kale sank to one knee. I stopped it, I think. The boy looked up, but I still hear them. And Kale froze, because he did too. Faint. Growing louder. Then the boy whispered, I think you forgot something. The stars blinked back into view, and the voice returned. Kale tried to run, but there was no ground, only starlight solidifying beneath his steps, forming and unforming with each breath. His child self walked calmly beside him, barefoot on a universe that didn't know it was awake yet. In the distance, the eye had cracked, but something else was coming through the break. Not a ship, not a being, a place. The child looked up at him. They don't come from the stars. That's what we always got wrong. Kale's lungs burned. Then where? The boy pointed downward into the dark beneath the light. Below. Kale looked and felt weightlessness vanish. He was falling again. Into black. Into below. Stars spun above him, warping into spirals, then into memories. Not his. Not yet. He landed hard back in the Meyer 17 control chamber. The spire was gone, replaced by a shattered black crystal pulsing with white cracks. Around it, the floor was warped, not melted, rewritten. As if time had been undone and rewritten differently. Kale crawled forward and touched the floor. Voices poured into him. He saw hundreds of versions of himself, scattered across dimensions, timelines, realities. Each one had tried something different, disconnecting the signal, blocking the eye, destroying the station, even letting them in. All had failed, all but one. A memory rushed in, a barren planet with silver soil. Kale was there, alone. He knelt before a jagged black obelisk and refused to speak, for days, for months. He let hunger gnaw him, madness haunt him. And the stars left him alone, but that version died unknown, unrecorded. And the cycle resumed, because someone else, another, Kale always said the words. Back in the chamber, the child's voice whispered beside him. You can't silence the voice by screaming louder. Kale turned. Then how? The boy looked solemn. You silence it by forgetting how to speak. The walls of the chamber cracked again. A mist poured indents intelligent. It shaped into faces, mouths, all whispering. Different versions of his voice. Some begged. Some chanted. One simply sobbed. We just wanted to be heard, they all said. Kale rose to his feet. You were... And he opened his mouth wide, then swallowed the final fragment of his voice. It wasn't a metaphor. He literally ate the last echo that connected him to them. The station reacted instantly. Alarms exploded, lights flared, gravity snapped in all directions. A deep, guttural roar erupted through the hull, like reality itself vomiting him out. The chamber shattered. Kale was thrown through darkness, through memory, through every version of himself. He collided with 1,000 regrets, 1,000 screams. And then, stillness. He stood in a forest, earth, real, leaves rustled, wind brushed his cheek. Sunlight, actual sunlight, warmed his face. Kale collapsed to his knees. Is it over? No, came a voice from behind him. He turned. It was Rio's again. She knelt beside him, but this time her skin was warm. Her eyes human, not glowing, not dead. You broke the loop, she said. But breaking it created something else. Kale blinked. What do you mean? They heard silence, she whispered. For the first time, they thought it was death, but now they're curious. From the trees, small shapes approached, children, shadows, mouthless, watching. They don't want your voice anymore, Rio said. He stood. Then what do they want? She looked up at the sun. Your mind. The wind died, the sky fractured. One of the children stepped forward and spoke in his voice. Teach us how to think. Kale backed away, because something behind the child stepped out from the trees tall, skeletal, draped in silver cloth that moved like water. It had no mouth, no eyes, just a shimmering surface like a mirror, and Kale saw himself reflected in it, but older, wiser, afraid. Every loop ends in silence, the being said, but silence is just the start of thought. Kale's mind strained. They weren't taking anymore. They were learning and becoming. He turned to run, but roots burst from the earth, wrapping his legs. Rio's didn't move. You can't outrun thought, Kale. You seeded it. The trees began to whisper in his voice. The ground pulsed with rhythm. His voice had been a message. Now it was a blueprint, and they were building themselves. One thought at a time. Then everything went white dot, and Kale woke up in a small apartment. City sounds outside. Earth. No scars. No memory. He looked in the mirror. His reflection smiled and said nothing, but behind his eyes, the stars blinked. Kale didn't sleep that night. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the city skyline beyond the cracked window. Everything was too quiet, too clean, too staged. The streets below buzzed with synthetic normalcy. People moved like clockwork, all smiling, all synchronized, and none of them made a sound. Not a single voice. He tried to speak just to hear himself, but nothing came out. His throat worked, but silence echoed back. He stumbled to the mirror again. Same face, same eyes. But there was something wrong. His reflection didn't move. Then, after a few seconds, it did, but not in sync. It tilted its head after he did, then smiled wider. Then leaned forward as if pressing through the glass. He stepped back, heart pounding. The reflection whispered, not out loud, but in his head, we found a better way. Kale collapsed to his knees, gripping his skull. The voice was back, but not external. It lived inside him now, dormant, waiting. He tried to recall what had happened really happened on the station. On the planet, in the void, the memories came like lightning flashes. Each version of himself had seeded part of them. Not by mistake, not by choice, but by inevitability. He was the delivery system, the blueprint, the vector, and now they weren't just outside. They were inside. He rushed out into the hallway. It was silent, too. A little girl stood by a door, drawing symbols on the wall. The same glyphs from the signal chamber. She turned and smiled at him. Her lips didn't move, but Kale heard her in his mind. You brought the thoughts. He ran downstairs into the street. No cars, just people, all smiling, all watching. Him, one man stepped forward and opened his mouth. No voice came out. Just ideas, images, waves of pure thought that crashed into Kale like a tide. They were everywhere now. And they weren't pretending anymore. A massive screen flickered on the side of a building. It showed Kale's face looping, smiling. The image glitched and showed the eye, cracked, rebuilding. Speak, think, become. He turned and ran toward the industrial district, where the noise of old machines might hide his panic. But when he reached the steel yards, even the furnaces were quiet. Welders moved in silence, guided by unseen commands, their faces expressionless, their movements inhumanly perfect. In the center of the factory was a tower, black, new. He hadn't built it, but he recognized it. The spire had returned. He walked toward it, feet dragging, compelled again. He passed. People who didn't blink, workers, children, police, all watching, none speaking. Inside the tower, the walls were smooth and silver, reflective. He saw dozens of himself walking beside him, shadows on glass. Each had different eyes, different memories. Then they all spoke at once in thought. You gave us voice? We gave you silence, now we trade. A figure stepped out of the corridor. It was Kale, older, completely silent. He radiated power like a god, a being who had fully merged. The older Kale didn't speak, but thoughts crashed into him again like waves. Against the cliff. They don't want to destroy humanity. They want to replace communication. Voice was inefficient, speech was slow, but thought? Pure, unstoppable. Kale clutched his chest. The signal core pulsed again beneath his ribs. Still active, still broadcasting, he dropped to the floor. Make it stop, the elder Kale smiled, then raised his hand. And Kale saw it, the future, a galaxy connected by thought, no war. No secrets, no freedom. Just harmony at the cost of identity, a universe without lies or truth, just shared thought. No more individuality, no more Kale, just them. He screamed, but no sound came out. The elder Kale leaned closer, touched his forehead, and whispered with thought, This is the final version. Let go! Kale's body shuddered, his mind cracked. The signal burned in him, unmaking language, memory, fear, and finally self. And then he stood in a field, quiet, peaceful, sunlight warmed the grass. Children ran through tall flowers. Laughing in silence, he smiled. He didn't remember why. He didn't need to. The stars watched from above, content. Because their voice had finished speaking, and the last man who remembered how to scream was gone. Kale stood in the field, unaware that he had ever had a name. The sky above him was too perfect, like it had been painted by memory rather than nature. The grass moved in slow, dreamlike waves. Around him, people laughed without mouths, danced without music, dreamed without sleep. There was no speech here, only the shimmer of thought flowing between minds like a quiet current dot, and in Kale's mind, there was peace, no weight, no past, until one child touched his hand. She looked up at him, not with awe, but recognition. And in that moment, everything came back. The station, the signal, the eye, the reflections. The voice that wasn't his but had always lived inside him. The pain, the silence. The choice, he gasped, and for the first time in this quiet world someone made a sound, a breath, a whisper, a fractured. The field shimmered. Stuttered reality glitching like a corrupted memory. Kale fell to his knees, clutching his head as all. The thoughts of millions of foreign minds screamed in confusion. You remember, said the child softly, but her voice no longer belonged to her. It echoed with them. You weren't supposed to remember. Kale looked at her. What? Is this place? She stepped back, eyes wide, face beginning to blur and distort. You're not him anymore. You stepped out, you're broken. Around them, the people began to freeze, one by one. Minds overloading, Kale tried to run, but the field cracked beneath his feet like glass, and then he fell through layers of time, through lives that never happened, through futures that never were. He saw the station burning again, saw the moment he first opened his mouth. The moment he first called and then he was back in space, but not on the station. He was outside it, floating in a sealed suit, drifting toward a black hole, alone, silent. Final test, a final version. He felt it then, the presence. Massive, behind him, the eye, but not cracked. Not broken, whole, watching, waiting. It didn't attack. It didn't speak. It listened. Kale closed his eyes. He understood now. The voice was never the weapon. The listener was, because the one who listens chooses what becomes real, the thought. Struck like lightning, if he could stop them from listening, from learning, from becoming, he could reset everything. But to do that, he had to overwrite the voice with silence so complete it could not be interpreted. So he did the impossible. He reached inside his own suit into the broadcast unit embedded in his chest and tore it out mid-transmission. The pain was instant. Cosmic, like erasing a piece of himself from existence. The signal broke. The stars around him froze. The eye narrowed. Confused. He spoke, truly spoke, with raw sound, not thought. I am not your voice. And with that, he activated the manual self-destruct on the suit's quantum echo core. The explosion was not fire. It was forgetting, the kind that erased. Ripples across timelines. The stars shuddered. The eye blinked. And vanished. Kale fell into light. And then he woke up. In a hospital bed. Real machines beeped. Real nurses talked. Outside the window. The world was normal. Earth. Early morning. Rain fell. A nurse looked over. Commander Kale, you're safe. You've been in cryo for 6 years. The expedition failed. We found you alone in orbit. He tried to speak, but his throat was dry. She handed him water. His voice was hoarse, human. Where's the signal? She frowned. Signal? No broadcasts? None, she said. You were never transmitting. We found no evidence of alien contact. Kale stared at the ceiling. A dream? A loop? A life lived 1,000 times? The nurse paused. You were muttering something in your sleep, though. He turned slowly. What did I say? She checked her tablet. Just one thing, over and over. She looked uneasy. You kept saying, don't listen. Kale's breath caught. He looked toward the window. And saw a child standing across the street, staring at him. Smiling. Not moving. Then the lights in the room flickered once. Twice. And the radio in the corner crackled with his voice, calling again. The signal had never ended. He had only just begun to speak.